What does 100% financing on a house mean? Welcome back. Real estate investing is loaded with acronyms and jargon and challenges for new investors. On top of that, there's dozens of books, manuals, articles written about real estate and doing it with no money. So let's talk a little bit about no money. What does 100% financing on a house mean? Well, some people will sell with 100% financing. Why would they do that? Well, maybe there's a problem with the property. So if you're one of those people that's an entrepreneur and you're dreaming about getting rich like you saw on late night television, or you've been to one of those hotel seminar deals, I'm going to encourage you to listen very carefully. At some point, entrepreneurs dream about getting rich as shown on late night television. Sometimes they go to hotel seminars in your city and they're encouraged to listen to get rich quick deals. All right, no money down. Well, TV shows and seminars aren't really the reality of life. So my name is Ted Thomas, and I've been involved in real estate for decades, past 30 years. And I've been involved in a category of real estate that always works. So let's call that category an arena or a part of the real estate. I mean, I'm involved in tax lien certificates and tax deeds. So I've been doing real estate my whole life. But when I found out 30 years ago about tax liens and tax deeds, I never looked back because I saw the margins. I saw how you could make big money. All right, so what am I going to answer on this particular question? What does 100% financing on a house mean? Okay, now I'll be right back and I'll give you the answer. Okay, so maybe in your life, it sounds amazing that you could get a property and not have to put any money in it. Well, you better be able to put a lot of brain power into it if you're not putting money into it, because a lot of properties will actually be sold with nothing down, and there must be a reason for that. So that should be the first caution in your mind. Why are these people selling a property zero down? More than likely, it's because it's got high maintenance, or it definitely has high payments, or maybe there's some government deal going on. But the point is, the people aren't going to be able to make those high payments. So this property is probably going to go to foreclosure, and so someone's trying to get rid of it in most cases. So zero down simply means you're going to have to take the burden of whatever that loan on that property. So more than likely, it's over mortgage. What's over mortgage? It's got mortgage in excess of the value. Mortgage in excess of the value. So you want to give that a lot of thought. So they're happy to sell their over mortgage property because they can't rent it for that price. They can't make the payments. They'll do anything to get rid of it. Now, if you're going to buy that property, you're not going to put any money down, so you think, oh, you could just walk away from it. Well, you could, but that's going to end up on your record somehow, and you don't want to do that. So you really want to think about these zero down payment deals. Now, if you're an AA credit buyer, by that I mean you're an insurance company or a fund or you have a lot of cash, well, then that's a whole different ballgame, because you might see a good deal zero down and you can handle all this negative for a while. But most of the people that look at these things are saying, wait a minute, it's overpriced. Do I really want to get an over mortgaged property? Do I really want to buy no down? Okay, now over mortgaged properties many times have too much maintenance. They certainly have too much in payments, okay? So I don't know the condition of any property that I'm buying until we inspect it and check it out. Now, at tax sales, we can't do that. In the regular market, you can buy property and you can have contingencies and look it over and make sure it's what you want. But if you're buying zero down, you need to be very, very cautious. Why? Because the seller has a reason for dumping that property into the market. If they're giving you zero down, why are they doing that? That doesn't mean every deal's bad, but you better understand the math of the deal before you get into it. If it's over mortgaged and overpriced, you aren't going to do any better than they are in selling it unless you have some waiting buyer. And some waiting buyer might find out that it's overpriced and you can't get rid of it. So unfortunately, sometimes the market changes. So we have times in the country when the whole economy takes a dive. And when it does, it brings all the real estate down. It's like the tide goes out, all the water goes out. Same situation, all of the properties drop. Well, if they were financed 100%, I can tell you they're all over mortgage. What do people do if they're living in an over mortgaged property? If there more is owed on the property than it's worth, the people are going to walk away from it. they're just going to walk away and leave you with the property. So you got a major problem on you. So we've had times in the country where there's millions of these properties. So sometimes people just overbid. They go to an auction and they bid too much money. If you bid too much money, you pay too much, you're not going to be able to sell the property. It's not going to happen. So you have to know what you're going to sell a property for before you buy it. So let me say that again. You have to know what you're going to sell it for before you buy it. That's just a strategy that will always work and keep you out of trouble. Now, the banks put mortgages on these properties, and sometimes the bank lends too much money. Well, what if the bank does lend too much money? They're in jeopardy just like you are. Why? Because you're going to walk away, and now what are they going to do with it? So they're going to have to take a huge discount on the loan to get rid of it. Something's going to happen. Nothing good is going to come from over-mortgaged properties. So you darn sure don't want to be the buyer of any of those. One of the reasons I got myself involved with tax liens and tax deeds was I can buy properties 10, 20, 30 cents on the dollar, or I don't buy them. I buy those for 10, 20, 30 cents on the dollar with no mortgage, or I don't buy them. All right, if you're out trying to buy properties zero down, you're going to have to start making the mortgage payments. And many people will try to get you to assume that loan. You don't ever want to assume any loan, ever. You never want to assume a loan. If you want to assume them, call me. I'll find you some loans you can assume. That's insane. Why would you want to take on somebody else's debt? You never want to do that. All right, now in history, the market can change, so you're not going to get involved in that. You're going to buy. If you don't know what you're going to sell it for, don't buy it. If you can't get the best price, don't buy it. If you're interested in zero down payment, happens all the time. Now look, I don't make the rules. The legislature of the state always makes the rules. All right, the borrower, when they buy a property, signs a promissory note. When you sign that promissory note, that's a mortgage. It's the law that you pay it. If you don't pay it, you might still own it. You might still have that mortgage coming after you. So the mortgage means you signed a promissory note to pay. I'm going to tell you not to assume any of those promissory notes. Now, recently, the president has changed some of those rules, so you might want to check on that. But I'm going to tell you, if you sign a promissory note, in most cases, the people can come after you to get the payments on it. All right, now, nationwide, a lot of banks have closed in the past 10 years. Now, why did those banks close? Because they had loans that were over the mortgage. Now, the market crashed, and now the properties are worth less. People won't pay for them, and what is the bank going to do? They're not getting any mortgage payments. They're not getting any payment, so the bank fails. All right, now, you don't lose a lot of money when the bank fails because we have guarantees at the bank. But the bank is wiped out. The stockholders are wiped out. So many banks are closed because they lent too much money on property. All right, the federal government can have the exact same problem. So foreclosure is nothing to blink an eye at. It can be a big problem. Now, 100% financing isn't necessarily bad, but let's look at an example of it being good. All right, now if you're a Class A buyer and you're considered AAA credit and you have plenty of money in your bank account, you could buy properties 100% financing. Many people will sell to you, and what they'll do is say, all right, pay me X, like property value is 150, they only owe 100 on the loan. So they sell it for you to 150, you make your payments based on 150, they then make the payment based on 100, they keep the difference. It's kind of a sandwich there, isn't it? So they make their profit in between. All right, so that's called equity. The difference between the loan and the value is the equity. All right, so those people are happy because they're making money on their equity. Well, that's a legitimate business. All right, that's legitimate for you too if you're a Class A buyer and you have AAA credit. But most of the people watching these videos on YouTube are not AAA credit people. They're people who are trying to do no down payment deals. Well, it's going to be a challenge. And when you take on that loan and you take on that property, your challenges are just going to they're overwhelming, and don't be surprised if you end up in the foreclosure. In other words, sellers who are selling with 100% financing, zero down for you, why are they doing it? Now, if you're AAA, you don't have to worry about it because you got reserves, you can handle the whole thing. But if you're not a AAA client, you really got to think about what you're doing. When people that have AAA credit, they might buy $1 million building on 100% financing, but the insurance company only has a $500,000 loan. So they make their payments on the million, and the insurance company makes a profit on the difference. Okay, that's a legitimate business. It's been around for years. All the tall office buildings you see downtown are done that way. Doesn't mean real estate, if single-family homes can't be done that way. Of course they can. But the AAA buyer is not the one that's probably watching this video. So think about that. They have substantial assets. They can handle any kind of problem that comes along. For example, what happens if they were renting the property and the tenant moved out? Now there's no payment coming in. AAA client has reserves. It's not a problem. If they've got reserves, they can handle this. What are you going to do if the rental person leaves? You're in big trouble fast. So if you can't figure out how to get a lot more payment than that 100%, in other words, if you can't change the use of that property, you better think about it, because it's going to end up just like this slide. It's going to get pretty smelly around that room with that big mortgage, which is the elephant in the room. You got to make that payment. If you can't make that payment, well, then you're going to go to bank foreclosure just like everybody else. All right, I got into business that I'll explain simply. It's tax liens, tax deeds. There's over 2 million tax defaulted properties every year. All I want to do is I want to buy those properties at what they want to sell them for. And they generally sell them for 10 and 20 cents on the dollar. You're looking at a county map, okay? Not just the United States, that's all the counties. All 3,000 of those counties sell tax defaulted property. All right, this business has been around for 200 years. I love to buy these properties. Why? Because I buy for 10, 20, 30 cents on the dollar, and the mortgage has been canceled. The trust deed has been canceled. That means I have no mortgage. So now I own for 20 or 30 cents on the dollar, and I have no mortgage. I've got a lot of margin between my price and what the market is going to sell for. You've got to have margin. Zero down payment, there's no margin. All right, now the AAA clients, they can do stuff you can't do. They can buy a big building like this. It will not matter if they lose the tenants, because they have reserves. They have money left over. You don't have money left over, so that property is going to go to crisis situation very, very quickly. All right, so if you're a buyer just getting started and you have a dream of no money, I'm going to suggest you be very, very cautious. And why? Because how are you going to make the payments if you lose that tenant? Now, if you're taking a rental property and if you're turning it into an Airbnb, then what you are going to be able to do is maybe instead of getting $2,000 a month, you're going to get $6,000. You can probably afford 100% financing. But otherwise, you better really have thought about how you're going to do that. Now, the average zero down payment person gets themselves in bigger trouble. But as I say, $2,000 payment, but you could bring in $6,000. It's not a problem. You're going to be able to handle that. All right, so zero down payment works okay, but when does it work okay? It only works when you have a plan and how you're going to handle it. All right, so move ahead cautiously and move ahead slowly. Why? Because what's going to happen? You're going to have payments to make. So if you bought zero down, I don't particularly envy you. I've seen people do it and survive it, but I've seen a lot more of them that didn't survive it. All right, so what are you trying to do? You're trying to turn a little bit of money into a lot. So what I did is I stopped getting involved in zero down payment. I stopped getting involved with flippers. What did I do? I bought properties at low prices at the auctioneer, and then I sold them at a slightly higher price. So I bought it low and I sold it low. Why did I do that? So I could make a profit. Now I have clients that have used their credit cards and purchased as many as 60 properties. There's 100% financing buying. Now, what did they do with them? They sold them on installment plans. So they got a down payment. Once they get the down payment, what did they do? They got installments, and they had a business that worked that went on and on and on to the point where they could do 60 properties in maybe 6 years. All right, now that's the exception to the rule. The point is, all of you can do this. It's not difficult. Do you have something to learn? Yes, you got a ton to learn. This is not a secret formula. I've been doing this for decades. Other people did it for decades before me. Now, I'm about to close this video, and when I do, below me, there's a free gift for you. You ought to take advantage of that, okay? You might want to like the video. You might want to tell someone else about it. You might want to make some comments. That's all good, all right? You definitely want to subscribe so you'll know about the next videos coming up. Okay, I'm Ted Thomas. I'll see you on the next video.